Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Row, row, row. Hello and welcome to HiGPS Balance Mod Developer Update for February 2019. We got some exciting new changes and additions to the server that I will be going through in this video in case you aren't aware of it already. First off, it is the Engipads that you can swap your teleporter with that basically changes them either into speed pad or a jump pad. So the way you access this is that you type /pad in chat and then you enable or disable how this works. So if you want a speed pad, just build it, and if you want a jump pad, you just right click once. So even numbers of rotations are jump pads, odd are speed boosts. So basically how it works is that the jump pad, when you walk on it, you will be launched forward. We tweaked this, so this is now the default state. If you want to jump high, you gotta crouch on it and it will launch you more vertically. However, there's still a little tech to it. If you manage to crouch jump on it, you will be able to jump really high and go a bit further than if you just simply walked on it. And I wanted to add this to add tiny bit of skill involved in using these jump pads for now. Here's a couple of little jumps you can do on Viaduct, for instance.
Much obliged, partner. Thanks for the ride, partner. Thanks for the ride, partner.
On to the balance changes itself. So the Pomson was in a state where it was kind of bad. So we increased the firing rate and also made it damage players connected via heal beams. Now, this didn't really change anything in the way people use the weapon, so we have really gone back on the design there, and we've removed what we did, and instead of faster firing speed, we just upped the damage, because faster firing speed didn't really help all that much because the clip and stuff was the same, so the effective damage before reload wasn't that great. So now it's closer to the shotgun, and it's a very good mid-range option for the engineer. And hopefully this will allow him to use this weapon a bit more efficiently. We also removed the connected metagun damage, of course, so that is no longer the case. The Bison has also gotten a similar change. However, instead of 20% more damage, it's 50% more damage done with this weapon. So now the Bison is a bit more formidable, and hopefully we'll see it used a bit more because it is very unreliable and still not all that great, but hopefully this damage increase will make it a lot more viable somewhat. It still penetrates targets, so that's something to keep in mind. Now on to Pyro. The Scorch shot has been nerfed and then buffed again, so we changed the projectile speed down to 60% of the original speed, so that was a bit excessive. So we changed it back to 80%, so it's a bit slower. It's not as spammy, and hitting people with the second hit is still a bit harder than stock vanilla way. But regardless, this is a change that we feel sits a lot better with the mod. As for the thermal thruster, it apparently had a hidden knockback penalty that I wasn't aware of, so this has been removed. And the holstering time has been reduced from 0.8 seconds to 0.5 seconds. So this allows you to switch weapons faster and be a bit more scary as a pyro. And given that you don't have the knockback penalty increased, means that you won't be able to escape or surf as easily as you used to be. Now onto Scout. Babyface's Blaster now has their move speed increased from 10 to 15% because the initial 10% wasn't really all that noticeable. I mean, you did run faster and got to mid faster than everyone else, but you had very low damage sustain after firing those 4 shots. So upping it to 15% might make it totally broken, but we'll see how that plays. So far, nobody's been able to completely wipe others using this weapon. Back to Pyro, and the rest is just going to be Pyro changes. So in our efforts to make Pyro melee unlocks and also the stock more viable, we have done the following changes. So now the Neon Annihilator will crit against players covered in gas. So that means now you have a Girardi Bushwhacker combination along with Neon Annihilator and the Gas Passer. However, keep in mind that you will only crit players that are covered in gas, meaning that as soon as you hit them once, they are now burst in flames and no longer covered in gas. So you won't be able to multi-hit crit as you will do with the Bushwhacker. The Sharpened Volcano fragment has gotten an increased buff to try and help it compete with the fire extinguisher. So now It deploys 60% faster, so this should make it a bit more viable. It still requires, for the most part, 2 hits on mostly undamaged targets to get a kill, and hopefully this will make it a bit more viable without stepping on the toes of the extinguisher. Now, the Powerjack was a weapon that was rarely used that much because it required certain dependencies to work. So we've added that if you are holding it, you get 15% more overheal. So that means your health as a Pyro by default will now cap at 285 instead of 260 while holding this weapon. While you still, the previous stats apply, that if you kill someone, you get a lot of health back, and you also get more health received by healing sources from dispensers and medics, but a lot less from health packs. And this is only when the weapon is active, meaning that if a medic heals you before you switch, you will get increased healing, but you won't get the additional overheal buff unless you disconnect and reconnect. And lastly, of the balance changes, the Fireaxe, in our continued efforts to try and make this weapon viable, in addition to revealing cloaked spies, it now gives you 10 more max health as a Pyro overall, because you are now giving up a lot of utility, like you're not using the Powerjack or any of the other cool unlocks, or Hot Hand, which is the Powerjack for speed, and then we just decided to give you more health in addition to that. So if you pair this with the Phlogistinator, you now have 200 health as Pyro. And lastly, very excited news that just recently, I think yesterday, we set up the Asia server for the balance mods. We now are present in the US, EU, and in Asia. The server is located in Singapore, so people close to that region can now try the balance mod and play there, and we will try to host play sessions there in the future. And just for a little heads up for what the project plan for March is that we're going to take a closer look at Demo Knight and see if it's possible to make him not shit. Basically, making as viable as using sticks without making him overpowered. We'll see if that is possible with all the weapon combinations and stuff like that. So if you have any clues or figured out something or have some great ideas regarding this, please let me know in the Discord and we will take it from there. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in our play sessions on the Balance Mod server. See ya!